Humans have lived in the Brunno Valley since prehistoric times. It was on this hill, called the Red Hill, that the oldest evidence of human settlement was found. It was a handcrafted stone dating back some 700,000 years. Of course, at that time, Brunno did not yet exist. It took a very long time before the first towns appeared on our territory. Before the formation of the first towns in 1100 to 1300, market villages would grow around castles. One of the oldest villages on the territory of today's Brunno was located below the Spielberg Hill in the floodplain of the river Svratka. It was here that the first settlement of today's Brunno developed. The first written reference to Brunno and Brunno Castle can be found in the Cosmas Chronicle in 1091. What we call multiculturalism today could also be said about Brunno of that time. From the 13th century, foreign colonists came here. Germans, Flemish and Walloons who settled around today's Freedom Square. Also, Jews formed their own community in the lower part of today's Masaryk Street. Brunno grew significantly. This development culminated in the formation of the town, probably in the 1330s, but maybe as early as in the 1320s. The town began to flourish after 1243, when King Václav I granted it city rights. Fortifications were built with 5 gates. The only preserved gate is called Mianinska. It was built in the 1330s. The oldest building in Brunno, which still serves its original purpose, is St. Giles Church in Komarov. The nave of today's church was built by Benedictines by the end of the 12th century. Soon after 1200, they added the Tribune Tower, which is one of the 11 preserved structures of its kind in the Czech Republic. Spielberg Castle has remained the dominant feature of Brunno up until today. It was probably founded by Ottokar II of Bohemia in the 1270s. The castle was built on a hilltop towering over the historical city centre. It was constructed in a grand way, not only as a solid defence of the royal reign, but also as a stately seat for the rulers of Moravia. The first historic evidence of Spielberg dates back to 1278, when the appointment of king's judges took place. Subsequently, Brunno grew in significance and, in 1292, received the right to vote the mayor. Queen Elizabeth Rajka of Poland is one of the significant personalities from that time, who had a great impact on the shape of Brunno. In 1323, she founded the Cistercian convent, the Basilica of the Assumption of the Virgin Mary, and a year later, the parish church of St. Lawrence in Brunno Komín. The Queen was buried under the flagstones of the main nave of the minor basilica in Old Brunno. The place can be located by the flagstone with the letter E and the Queen's coat of arms. In 1349, Brunno became the permanent seat of the Moravian margraves, of whom the most distinguished was Jobst of Moravia, a nephew of Charles IV. Towards the end of his life, Jobst became the Roman king. Besides Olomouc, Brunno was the most important Moravian town. There was even a land court, and from the time of Charles IV, a series of land tables were kept there. These were the predecessor of the land registry. They have been preserved until today. Since those times, Brunno has had its patron. This is the icon of St. Mary of Brunno, which was named the Black Madonna or Palladium, the protector of the city of Brunno. According to tradition, the painting was painted by St. Lucas. The painting was donated to the Brunno Augustians for the newly built church by the Emperor Charles IV, probably in 1356. Today it is the Church of St. James. However, Brno's rise was soon interrupted. In 1428 and 1430, Brno was affected by the Hussite Wars. Throughout the wars, Brno remained a firm stronghold of Catholicism due to its predominantly German character. The Hussites did not capture the city. However, Old Brno and nearby villages suffered greatly. In the middle of the 16th century, Brno began to tend towards Protestantism, the followers of which gained supremacy in the city council. However, both Jesuits and Capuchins also gained great influence. From around that time, the turn of the 15th and 16th centuries, comes the Tilia cordata, the oldest tree in Brno. It is estimated to be 380 to 400 years old. Thus, already in its youth, it was a witness to dramatic events. The year 1645 was crucial for Brno. The city was besieged by the so far unbeaten, best equipped and trained army, 28,000 Swedish soldiers. The Swedes were convinced that they would capture the city within a few days, or seize it completely without a fight. However, they were wrong. Brno managed to defend itself. The garrison commander, Jean-Louis Radouy de Souche, stopped the Swedish army with just 426 soldiers and 1,000 townsmen. Brno's best-known legend is connected with the siege of Brno. The Swedes had besieged the city for more than 4 months, and their attacks did not bring any advance. According to the legend, on August the 15th, the Swedish general Torstensson decided to make the last push, with the condition that if the city did not fall before noon, he would leave. The attack was hard, and noon still far off. However, somebody came up with the idea to ring the noon bell an hour earlier. Torstensson ended the siege and the Swedes left. To commemorate this event, the bells of the Cathedral of Saints Peter and Paul ring noon at 11 o'clock every day. The fact that Brno defeated the Swedes and thus also saved Vienna from them was very beneficial for the city. For its actions, Brno was rewarded with new privileges, including the promotion of its coat of arms. After the 30 Years' War, the city became an impregnable Baroque fortress. Throughout history, nobody has ever managed to seize Spielberg. The foundation of a bishop's seat in 1777 on Petrov Hill also improved Brno's stand-in. It is still there today. Not long after the defeat of the Swedes, Brno suffered one of its many plagues. To commemorate the plague that tormented the city between 1679 and 1680, the city council decided to build a plague column in the place of the old column dedicated to the Virgin Mary. This column, located in Freedom Square, was however erected in its current form as late as in 1689. The Capuchin crypt, located in close vicinity of the Church of the Holy Cross, has also been preserved. The Capuchins built it in the middle of the 18th century. From the second half of the 18th century, members of the monastic order, its patrons, and some local notables were buried there. As far as the number of buried people is concerned, Brno also has the second largest charnel house in Europe. It is situated under St. James's Church, and there are 50,000 people buried in it. Lużanki Park has also been preserved. It is the oldest park in both Brno and the country. It is named after the floodplain forests which once grew there. The park was created thanks to the Holy Roman Emperor Joseph II. It was ceremonially opened in 1778. It was here that Napoleon celebrated his 40th birthday after he captured Brno for the second time. The event was preceded by the famous Battle of Austerlitz. This battle, also known as the Battle of the Three Emperors, took place on December 2nd, 1805, near Austerlitz. The French army, led by Napoleon Bonaparte, crushed the Allied forces of Russia and Austria. It is one of the most famous battles to have taken place in Moravia, and was a tactical masterpiece. Napoleon's victory broke the Allied coalition and had a great influence on the formation of state boundaries in the then Central Europe. Brno itself was captured by Napoleon in 1809. He intentionally destroyed part of Spielberg's fortifications, which paradoxically benefited Brno. 50 years later, it allowed the formation of an open city. Constricted space inside the city walls did not allow further development. The remaining part of the fortification was therefore demolished in the middle of the 19th century. Industry had begun to develop as early as in 1763, when the first textile factory was founded. Just 17 years later, 20 factories were already operating there. From that time, the textile and engineering industries gradually moved to Brno. The latest technologies were quickly introduced. It's no wonder that Brno was nicknamed the Czech Manchester. In 1839, the first train arrived in Brno. Development went quickly ahead. It was in Brno that the botanist Johann Gregor Mendel publicly presented his discoveries to the scientific world on February 8, 1865. His lecture caused a revolution in the science of genetic inheritance. In August 1869, the horse-drawn tram began its operation. In 1873, the first university opened in Brno. During the period of technological and industrial development, the world-famous composer Leos Janáček lived in Brno. In 1881 and 1882, the new city theatre was the first in Europe to be lit by electric light bulbs. A year later, the first Czech bookshop, owned by Joža Barvič, was opened. In 1899, the Brno University of Technology was founded. The same year, Brno composer Pavel Haas was born. Brno was an important multicultural city, a home to Czechs, Germans and Jews. Their coexistence was not, however, peaceful. Germans gained supremacy in the municipal government, which only ended in 1919. The same year witnessed one of the most important moments in the municipal government of Brno, when the city was enlarged by 23 suburban villages. Neither before or since has the city grown on such a scale. Thus, the Greater Brno, as we know it today, came into being.